does anybody care? This planet's empty, I see no signs of life. Please don't tell me that the human race did not survive. There are no people in the future. There are no people. There are no people in the future. No people at all. There are no people in the future. Where did all my people go? There are no people in the future. Let me try my people call. Where are all my people? Where are all my people? I guess I'll fly away now.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Yes, indeed, it is another Friday, and this is, been quite a week. Yes, it is Friday, May 12th, 2023, what? Welcome to Raging Chicken's Friday Politics Roundup. This is Kevin Mahoney, creator and founder of Raging Chicken. Each week we bring up, I don't know. We break down. That's what we do. The good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. You can help support this show by becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/rcpress. You can also help out the show by heading over to our YouTube channel if you're not there already. Smash that subscribe button, like the stream for this show, and hit that notification bell so you know every time that we go live. And if you're one of our awesome podcast listeners, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to. And leave a comment to let other folks know why you like the show. Little things like this help out tremendously. They help other people find the show. Oh boy, and if this wasn't more relevant than ever, do not let Paul Martino, Moms for Liberty, and his their oligarch friends, buy our schools and push extremist politics in our community. And we're seeing evidence of that all week long. That's for sure. Raging Chicken has teamed up with Levelfield to launch a truly rooted community PAC to invest in organizing, supporting local and statewide progressive candidates, and unmasking the toxic organizations injecting our communities with right-wing extremism. We're putting small dollar donations to work to beat back the power of big money. You can get more information and drop your donation at ragingchicken.levelfield.net. Well, on today's show, if I can get through it, with my allergies are nasty this morning. This week, CNN doubles down on cashing in on Trump, holding a town hall that allowed disgraced president and convicted sexual assaulter to spew lies and deceit before a cheering audience. Way to go, CNN. So now Anderson Cooper to kind of do the defense of CNN. Like, oh, you don't like to hear from people you don't like? Blah, 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 blah. What does that say about our democracy? It was never the point, Anderson. And Republican fraudster representative from New York, you know his name, George Santos, that's right. He was arrested and accused of 13 crimes, ranging from money laundering to fraud to lying about his finances on congressional disclosure forms. Santos, of course, pleaded not guilty, pledged not to resign, and said, that's ridiculous. Of course, we should take him at his word, right? Of course. And Elon Musk gives Tucker Carlson a platform with a new show on Twitter. Yeah, there you go. All I got to say is, when is Blue Sky launching again? Right? I know they already got the invite-only thing, but look, anybody got a Blue Sky invite they could send my way? I can't get off Twitter fast enough, I'm telling you. I'm going to get it out. Now, I've already signed up. I'm in the waiting list, right, to get on Blue Sky. I think Blue Sky, if it turns out to be what I keep on hearing about it be, that is going to be the place to go for this show and anyone who cares about democracy. Crazy. Well, this week the Writers Guild strike is going strong, and the billion-dollar entertainment industry just refuses to negotiate in good faith for a fair contract. Bunch of other stuff. Guess what? It's going to be hitting your binge watching pretty soon. They're even talking about like, well, let's bring in AI. We don't need people anymore. Insane. A little closer to home today, as some of you who listen to the show know, the Penridge School Board's meetings went off the rails once again as board members shut down the public comments and threatened community members with forceful removal. That paved the way for passing the far-right board's discriminatory bathroom policy, and the board even went as far as calling the local police, who were overheard saying, "What are we doing here?" And at that same Penridge meeting, community members and teachers showed up in large numbers to demand the board negotiate in good faith with the teachers union. The teacher's contract is set to expire at the end of June, and now we know that Megan Bannis Clemens, the Red Wizard herself, is basically, she spilled the beans. Yeah, the board's like, yeah, they want to give teachers a 2% raise, right? Penridge teachers already make 30% less than all the surrounding districts, and so she wants to give them a 2% raise, which doesn't even match inflation, which amounts to a pay cut when you add in the kind of additional fees and kind of payment they're going to have to make on their health insurance if they accept that. It's great to hear the community come out in support of the teachers. Meanwhile, public comments became heated once again in the Central Bucks School District at their school board meeting on Tuesday. Yes, community members and parents spoke out against the board's use of far-right Christian law firm to produce a report, quote-unquote, I use that term loosely, about the board's discriminatory LGBTQ policies. Several people also accused right-wing members of the board of bullying and abusive behavior toward other members of the board and members of the community. That's right. Gotta love that. Karen Smith has been, she's the Democrat on the board there, been the target of a bunch of those attacks, and she called for this one guy, Pepper, to basically step down because he's a horrible human being. And the PA primary elections are this coming Tuesday, May 16th, if you're not already aware. And look, the future of the Penridge School District is on the line, as is the future of many school boards across the Commonwealth. If you're not registered, it is too late to register for the primaries, but it is a great time to register for the general election in this fall. Just head on over to vote.pa.gov and fill out your voter registration today. Do not wait if you are not already registered. And for those of you who are registered, we're going to talk a little about this tonight because the way a lot of these school boards, they allow cross-filing, which means you can have candidates that get on the ballot for the Democratic primary and the Republican primary. And there's a couple of people that are on the Democratic primary. One guy in particular who is the farthest thing from kind of like a Democrat or even moderate Republican. The guy is at the forefront of the kind of radical rights takeover of the Penridge area Republican club or party, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Do not vote for that man. Sellers, I will tell you more about him. And this one's a little bit harder for me, so this is a shout out to a former Kutztown University student, Ryan Padavani. He was a former student of mine, and he was a fierce advocate for LGBTQ and disability rights. He was an amazing being who fought for everything that he got, and was an advocate for others around kind of access to mental health, access to fairness and accommodations for ACA. Well, he got a job up in Kingston, PA, technical writer, and he was thrilled about it. And we found out, much of our devastation this past week, he was killed. At first, at the beginning of the week, we had it was unclear what exactly happened until the Kingston police released information saying that after an autopsy was performed, it's definitely a homicide. So they do not have any suspects at this time, as far as has been public reported. So Ryan's killer is still at large. And the Kingston police are asking anyone with information about the case to contact the Kingston Police Department, Detective Robert Miller, at 570-288-3674, extension 420. That's Detective Robert Miller at 570-288-3674, extension 420. Or you can email him at rmiller@kingstonpd.org. That's rmiller@kingstonpd.org. That information will also be in today's show notes. More about that. And just for the heck of it, scientists are looking into whether space-time comes from magic. I kid you not. It's a real thing. There you go. Yeah, for more PA Progressive Talk, tune into the Rick Smith Show's live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern on his YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe to his podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Go to thericksmithshow.com for the latest across all his platforms. And you got to check out the Sisters of the Night Caucus podcast if you haven't already. The amazing PA women stirring the political cauldron behind this podcast rock the house. They know where the bodies are buried. Make sure to follow them on Twitter at The Night Caucus. That's at The Night Caucus on Twitter, and subscribe to their podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Also, shout out goes to Jillian, who had a birthday this week. Happy birthday, Jillian. And if you haven't heard, The Signal is a new podcast by the Bucks County Beacon. The Signal is hosted by the Beacon's editor-in-chief, Cyril Michaleko, and produced by yours truly. Twice a month, The Signal will shine a light on right-wing extremist currents streaming through Bucks County and beyond. Cyril invites guests who can provide insight, analysis, and organizing solutions so that we can steer the community towards calmer, saner, progressive routes. Check them out at buckscountybeacon.podbean.com or subscribe to their podcast wherever you get your podcast. And attention to all you gamers out there. The Game Inn, that's with two N's, is a Quakertown-based black family-owned gaming store. They're friends of the show, and they've got everything for retro N64s, the latest consoles, video games for all platforms, collectibles, action figures, Funko Pops, walls of Funko Pops. And kids get a discount when they get A's in the report card. You can't beat it. Check them out on their Facebook page and follow them on Twitter at The Game Inn. That's with two N's. Got a question about a game, look for something hard to get, shoot them a message or drop them an email at thegameinpa@gmail.com. A special shout out goes to Jonathan Mann, as always, who wrote our intro song, There Are No People in the Future. Check out all his great stuff and follow him on Twitter, or on his YouTube page, and follow him on Twitter at Song of Dayman. That's with two N's. That's at Song of Dayman on Twitter. Well, as y'all know, this past week I had to postpone the show with Mark Engler this past week, and I'm really sorry about that. I just had some things that came up that I just needed to kind of deal with Monday night, and it was just going to be at best a rush show if I could make it happen, and it was not going to work out. So Mark has been great about kind of understanding that, and we're working to get a kind of a rain date, so to speak, see if we can reschedule him to get him on the show. But having said that, maybe this is the kind of the universe coming together as a way of kind of me making up for missing the for Monday show. So you remember that we already had this one scheduled. We've already been announcing this on Monday at a special time at 1:30 p.m. on Monday. I'm welcoming award-winning journalist Christina Marusik to the show. We're going to be talking about her new book, A New War on Cancer: The Unlikely Heroes Revolutionizing Prevention. It's a fantastic book. I'll give you a little blurb on it. In A New War on Cancer, Marusik does a deep dive into the remarkable doctors, scientists, and advocates who are dealing with cancer prevention. In searching for answers, she met remarkable doctors, scientists, and advocates who are upending our understanding of cancer and how to fight it. They recognize that we will never reduce cancer rates without ridding our lives of the chemicals that increasingly trigger this deadly disease. If you remember, we've had her on the show before. She's an award-winning journalist. As I said, she covers environmental health and justice for Environmental Health News. And she is just a phenomenal reporter. We had her when it was great to have her on the show when she did her investigative piece for Environmental Health News about chemicals getting into people's bodies in Southwest PA. This book is just absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a great conversation. I hope you can join us at that special time at 1:30. Now, because I had that special time at 1:30, that means I didn't have a show at 7. But that worked out really well because somebody who've been I've been kind of reaching out to and wanted to get on the show kind of got back to me and said she could do 7 o'clock. So we are going to do it, and I am thrilled about this, especially on the eve of the primary day. It couldn't be more critical. So on Monday at 7 p.m., I welcome Catherine Joyce to the show. She's an investigative editor at In These Times and author of 2 books, The Quiverful and The Child Catchers. And we'll be talking about we're going to talk about kind of some broad stuff, but we're going to talk specifically about her article, Mad Moms, New Christian Nationalist Front Group claims to champion parental involvement in public education. Yes, we are talking about Moms for Liberty. So we'll be talking about Moms for Liberty on Monday night's show at 7 p.m. That's with Catherine Joyce. Her work on Christian nationalist currents and the kind of the rise of these kind of cultural conflicts. I've been following her work for quite some time because she's been on this. She's been way ahead of the curve in covering these issues, and it's going to be a thrill to have her on the show on Monday. And if you get a chance, you check out her books. They're just absolutely fantastic. Her book, The Child Catchers: Rescue, Trafficking, the New Gospel of Adoption, and then the one that I really got me paying attention what she was doing. This is from back, I think it's 2009. I want to say this book came out to give you a sense of how far ahead she is. Her book was Quiverful: Inside the Christian Patriarchy Movement. Is fantastic. So do come on, check her out on Monday night at 7 p.m. and be here at 1:30 p.m. with Christina Marusik to talk about her new book, New War on Cancer. All right. And finally, if you want a progressive future, we need progressive media. Support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress. We're here for the fight, but we need you. Become a patron for the price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement in the media. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. I did it once again. I talked past my music intro. So that gives me a sense that I'm already it's been a laggy day. It is finals week in my neck of the woods, which means classes like mine means like all student papers are in. So I've been grading nonstop all week long. It's one of these weeks where it's both like awesome and exhausting at the same time, right? It's like, it's awesome in the sense that, you get some of these papers that come in that are just doing such cool stuff, and these students are just doing amazing work. And there's always like surprises, and I don't mean like, students who the students was not doing good and then surprise, they did great. No, but more like, just the different kind of perspectives and angles and kind of, and things that, come up that you didn't get a chance to talk about in drafting and things like this, but that you see there in the final product. It's so interesting. But it's a lot at the same time. So a bit exhausted, and my, allergies are kind of kicking my butt today. So, but it is what it is. So let's kind of talk a little bit of stuff in the going kind of national. Everyone, I'm sure, saw that CNN decided to hold this town hall with Donald Trump, right? As a way of also kind of giving a little boost to their new one of their kind of new kind of up and coming quote unquote stars. As kind of the questioner. It was, it's a little bit of a dog and pony show, or should I just say it's a little bit of a cash machine, I guess, because we know that CNN, and this kind of came out, they even kind of said, CNN even came out and said, oh, we did the wrong thing. Because, and it was CNN, look, it wasn't just CNN, but the major, especially the cable networks, were making major bank on Trump during the 2020 election, or I'm sorry, 2016 election, right? Because they saw he was crazy, and but people tuned in to watch him, right? Whether it was just the Trump show or whether it was kind of like people who were supporters, they didn't know, they didn't care, they were just making bank. And so despite the fact that the guy was lying through his teeth, despite the fact that he said racist stuff and sexist stuff and everything that you could not want in a president, they were like, oh God, this is great entertainment, so we're going to keep on platforming this guy. He got so much free media that it was, basically he didn't need to spend very much on his campaign because, CNN was all in. So now, having done that, right, you had the previous president or CEO of CNN basically said it was a mistake. And it's like, okay, great, mea culpa, like after the fact and after you banked on it and kind of gave us, helped, promote this dude. They said, we're going to be more critical in the future. Well, they've got a new president or CEO now, And it looks like that CNN is making the move to try to get some more of that Fox audience, that they see blood in the water around what happened with Tucker Carlson and stuff. So they think that they can scoop up some of this conservative viewership, and they're going to do it through promoting Trump once again. So you had this, the moderator was Caitlin Collins. Caitlin Collins, she was came out of the right-wing media sphere and kind of the Daily Caller, right? She asked him maybe one or two kind of like probing questions, trying to get him to answer stuff, and he didn't. But then after that, it was just pretty much the Trump show. There was no questioning him on all of the lies that he was telling, right? Like she did once, I think, well, people have said that the election was here. Are you willing to kind of accept it? And nope, he said no, he just went on and did his old shtick, and then that was it for her. And that's despite the fact that, this is after he's been convicted now of sexual assault, right? And he goes on and says, calls the woman who kind of brought that case against him, calls her a whack job, right? And then the audience is cheering and laughing, right? So not only did CNN basically give this guy a platform and not challenge his lies, and not challenging the very thing that's brought us to the brink of like fascist takeover of this country, but they populated the audience with Trump supporters, right? And so giving everyone in the audience that signal that this is funny. Yeah, this is funny. Yes, this is a good guy. Oh, yeah, look, they all support him, right? That kind of stuff. So, I mean, it was like a triple kind of assault. And now, again, the E. Jean Carroll, the woman who brought that suit against Trump and won that suit against Trump in the neighborhood, I think it was $5 million. She may kind of sue him again now for further defamation of character after what he said during that quote unquote town hall. So anyways, the one additional time that she pressed him, right, that Caitlin Collins pressed him, Trump basically, you are a nasty person, he says, right? And she was barely nasty, right? But, I don't know. So this is from the Washington Post, right? Just to give you a sense, this is how they framed it. CNN's primetime broadcast of a raucous town hall with Donald Trump propelled a tsunami of criticism from inside and outside the network on Thursday. Renewed questions about how the news media will handle the challenge of covering the serial falsehoods of the Republican Party's leading candidate going in the 2024 election, right? And then predictably disastrous, quote, wrote former network TV news executive Mark Lukashevitz, part of a chorus of media critics and political observers who bemoaned the on-air spectacle. Quote, live lying works. A friendly MAGA crowd consistently laughs, claps at Trump's punchlines, and the moderator cannot begin to keep up with the AR-15 pace of lies. At a time when CNN has been struggling to turn around viewership decline, the telecast proved to be a ratings disappointment, with Nielsen reporting just 3.1 million viewers overall. That was a big boost over CNN's typical 8 p.m. telecast, but a smaller audience in CNN's town hall with President Biden last summer, which was 3.7 million, and 6 previous Trump town halls carried by Fox News, calling into question both CNN and Trump's drawing power. The bigger story actually here is that the news media has not learned its lesson. Right? It's not, I mean, again, it's a story about ratings and all this other kind of stuff, when really the thing is we cannot be uncritically platforming an authoritarian, a demagogue. I mean, I don't know why that is so hard to say directly. Right? You bring someone on, is like, you cannot bring someone on who's proven to be a serial liar and demagogue without the purpose of there to challenge this person with journalistic. I mean, imagine this. Imagine if it was Mehdi Hassan who was interviewing Trump. Do you think it would have gone like this? No. But instead, CNN's looking to kind of like, say, hey, we brought Trump on. They thought this was their big get. That does not bode well for the kind of upcoming elections, but we shall see. And of course, we got more drama from more liars in the Republican Party this week, with George Santos basically being arrested and accused of 13 crimes ranging from money laundering to fraud, lying about his finances and congressional disclosure forms. Is pretty something else, if you have to say. I mean, if you want to put it like that. I was completely like blown away by, well, I don't know if I really was blown away actually to think about it. But it's remarkable to me, I guess, that that people like this could just keep doing what they're doing, and maybe he was going to pay a price, but we shall see. So this is from the AP. U.S. Representative George Santos, infamous for fabricating his life story, pleaded not guilty to Wednesday to charges that he duped donors, stole from his campaign, and lied to Congress about being a millionaire, all the while cheating to collect unemployment benefits he didn't deserve. I mean, it's this guy. He says, I didn't do anything. This is all ridiculous. I don't know. No, I'm not going to resign. Right? What's remarkable about this is that, if you're collecting unemployment benefits you didn't deserve, that means they've got records. I mean, you've got to there's checks that were cashed, right? I mean, this is like crazy. He tried to kind of echo Trump's thing about witch hunting, right? It's just incredible. So let me see, where's this one part I want to say? Okay, so among the allegations, this is again from the AP, prosecutors say Santos created a company and then induced supporters to donate to it under the false pretense that the money would be used to support his campaign. Instead, they say, he used the money for personal expenses, including designer clothes and credit cards and car payments. Santos is also accused of lying about his finances on congressional disclosure forms, obtaining unemployment benefits while he was making $120,000 as regional director of an investment firm that the government shut down in 2021 over allegations that it was a Ponzi scheme. I mean, can you believe this? This is just this is like, I want the movie of this. I mean, I do want the movie version of this after this guy heads to prison, because, the level of, he just strikes me as someone who's got to the point where he's living so far inside his lies, right? That's all there is, are lies, right? So the lies are his version of truth. You know what I mean? It's like he can't get outside the lies because that's what he's been living for all this time. Thank you, Amy. I'm just seeing your comment now about our loss. Yeah, thanks, and welcome to the show. So that's pretty crazy. And then again, in a whole different, not whole different, but this is very similar. In this, it's in the same vein, I guess, is why I grouped these things together this week. Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox, and he did his boo-hoos on on his weird kind of panel debunker Facebook Live thing or whatever, about wanting to say he wanted been treated unjustly, but without having to say that because he didn't want to get sued by Fox and things like that. But the crazy thing this week with that was, I mean, I don't, maybe people knew about this, maybe people saw this coming, but Tucker Carlson announced this week that he was getting a new Twitter show. That's right. He's getting a new show on Twitter. So this is from the New York Times. The former Fox News host Tucker Carlson declaring, quote, "We're back," said on Tuesday that he was starting a new show on Twitter, a sign that negotiations to reach an amicable separations with the network where he's still under contract had broken down. Mr. Carlson offered no details when his new program would begin or what kind of content it would have. The many unanswered questions highlighted the uncertainty surrounding his future, a career in which he would be deprived of a primetime platform on Fox News. Right? So, and the rest of this story, and there's many stories like this one, but the rest of the story is about Tucker Carlson's negotiating contract and how Fox could stop him from doing this because they're still under contract negotiations. Again, missing the freaking main story, right? The main story here is that you have a soft white nationalist, if you will, soft in multiple ways, soft white nationalist, right, who has been platforming kind of Christian nationalism, white supremacy on his show for years, right, is now going to be let loose on Twitter, right? Where there's going to be far less to rein him in, which means that is going to be the source or a key source for fanning these flames of, kind of extremism in the lead up to the 2024 election. And that is what Elon Musk is doing. So these things are all connected. You've got fraudsters that are being elected to Congress, right? And basically, following the Trump plan of just kind of lie about everything and try to kind of make it go away, right? You've got CNN, right, platforming, a liar, convicted sex offender, Donald Trump, in this kind of like humanizing town hall. And then here we have like Elon Musk, billionaire, taking over Twitter, destroying Twitter, right? And then now using it for pretty much exclusively now pushing this kind of far right kind of agenda, and now platforming Tucker Carlson, right? I mean, this is like, how the stuff lines up, right? The pieces are coming here. And this is kind of, we're talking about, we see what happens at kind of at a small level, but we're talking about, there's billions of dollars being mobilized around all of this, right? If you take these things all together, right, to put in place a really messed up kind of, say, media landscape, political landscape, because we move into 2024, right? I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I mean, it's just pretty concerning at the very least. So there it is. And that's why I want to know when Blue Sky is launching. So I don't know about, I've talked about this a little bit before, and I'm concerned about what's going on with social media, and the impact we saw this week. For example, Vice News basically says they're going under, right? So they're declaring bankruptcy. And we saw, what was it? We saw, basically other kind of online media companies that had been fairly strong also declare bankruptcy and close their doors, right? So that means that potential independent or alternative or, God forbid, progressive outlets are struggling. And I do think that some of this has to do with what's happened with Twitter. And I don't mean to say that everything was great, then Twitter alone by itself is what destroyed things. But it has had an impact. I mean, like I've said here, is like, we know that I know that the way that, say, our programs used to circulate online, the ways that our engagement with folks would circulate online, the kind of comments and the back and forth that we would get, that's changed over this past year, right? I mean, we still got kind of our hardcore, Twitter warriors out there that, retweet our show and kind of send it out and comment and things like this. But the way that our shows circulate now is so sporadic. I mean, there's, it's not like, I'm not doing the shadow ban stuff. I'm not saying all that. I don't believe that that's what's going on. I just think it's just such a mess that the ways in which information would flow, right? Independent reporting would flow. Shows like this would flow are just junked up now. And now when you've got Elon Musk basically opening the doors wide to, these kind of, people who have been purged from the platform because of their, white supremacy and Christian nationalism and horrific behavior and racism and sexism and all that stuff. Now that he's welcoming them all back with open arms, it's just, something, and just like even stuff that shows up in my feed now is stuff that there's a lot of stuff I don't want to see this stuff. Right. I mean, it's like that was never there before. And now I'm getting stuff that's, inappropriate. That's, not even the kind of, there was the toxic Twitter before, right? When you've got these, people are trolling each other and people are, arguing and all, and then kind of saying nasty things and all that kind of stuff. Right. That was bad. Right. And that was not productive for kind of like, fostering a kind of deep democracy, so to speak. Right. But, it was also this contradictory space, like so many other ones, that where this, you could circulate stuff and people would engage with you, especially on political content, right? But that's been impacted significantly. We've been lucky in the sense that we've got enough we got enough strong following kind of among our kind of core group. We're not this kind of we're not trying to kind of, or we don't have like a group of reporters or production team or all this other kind of stuff that to have to pay, right? Otherwise we'd be in real trouble. No, this is kind of a labor of love, right? Kind of on my part for the most part, and supported by the patrons or the members that have been with us for quite some time. And that's what keeps this thing running. I mean, if it weren't for the kind of the members that we have, and we don't do ads, we don't do any of that kind of stuff. I mean, I plug the Game In right here, but it's not because I get money from the Game In, right? I've said this on the show before. It's like, they're a family-owned store, right? One of my son's best friends, his parents are the ones that run that store. They're awesome people. They've, they're awesome, and they kind of they opened that store, and it used to be in Percy, and now it's in Quakertown. And so I'm going to support them because it is the shout out. The podcast, right, that I kind of mentioned on this show, the Rick Smith Show, right, Sisters of the Night Caucus podcast, right, the Signal, right. I'm doing that because nobody's paying me to say that in my show, right? Nobody's paying me for that. I'm doing it because I believe, hey, look, we have this little platform, like we should be kind of like lifting up other people too as well, right? I mean, that's for me the ethos of what this is all about. But that's been really significantly kind of damaged in terms of the way we reach out to folks, and it's particularly an issue when it comes to reaching out to new people. But again, I mean, all credit goes to like the amazing our amazing followers and members and patrons who are the ones who shout this stuff out, where we kind of get new followers and we get new folks. Because we've decided to focus a lot on what's happening in kind of even much more locally in parts of the show, it has helped tremendously to build kind of local networks of connections, right? And that's part by necessity because our school boards are off the rails. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, so Blue Sky is, for what I've been reading about it and everything, is potentially going to be the best Twitter alternative that's out there. I've tried Mastodon, I've tried some other things there before, but they're just the purpose of them, right? What they're designed to do is different, right? I'm not knocking those other platforms at all. I actually really enjoy Mastodon. It really is about community, right? It's very, very decentralized. People are interested in kind of like, it's kind of like almost like a Discord kind of feel to it at times, right? And it's a really good stuff, and there's good people on there, there's good communities in different areas and stuff, but doesn't do the same thing with Twitter. But so Blue Sky is going to be the latest, right? The guy who used to run Twitter, this Blue Sky started up as part of Twitter to basically set up this kind of decentralized, a more decentralized platform to, they call it, this AT protocol, the new foundation for social networking, which gives creators independence from platforms, developers freedom to build, and users a choice in their experience. Right now, you can sign up for, to get on the waiting list, which is what I'm on. If any of you out there decide that you want to, that you already are on it, you're in the beta, and you have an invite that you want to burn, please send it my way. I will love you for it. ragingchicken@gmail.com, or you can message me on Twitter at this point. But I guess email is probably better. And we'll see. Blue Sky, it's right now it's owned by Jack Graber, but Jack Dorsey, the guy from, I should have said his name before, from Twitter, and Jeremy Miller, that serve on the board, and it's being set up as a public benefit LLC, and we'll see what happens when it goes through, and we shall see what how it goes. But I heard them, Blue Sky gets shouted out on the Majority Report too as well last week, which gave me another mode of confidence because those folks watch, are much more tuned into the specifics of these different platforms and social media. So hopefully go there. So I'm interested. I can't wait to see what it's going to be about. I hope it happens soon. I hope it happens like soon this summer, so we can start making that transition to lead up to the the municipal elections and the school board elections. But shall see. And I've been found the Writers Guild strike is going strong. And, the more I find out about this, the more that you kind of look into, not find out about, but the more kind of you read into some of the details of what's happening, and what are some of the kind of key issues of the strike. It's something else, I'll tell you. And it's so critical that they are going on in strike. So let me give you some of this is from In These Times, right? So just give you a sense of what are some of the demands that are from the union right now. The Writers Guild Association, some of the demands, they want to restrict the use of artificial intelligence in writing. They want establishing transparency and viewership-based royalties, paying writers their weekly minimums due during post-production of shows, preserving a minimum staff of 6 writers with guaranteed employment for 10 consecutive weeks on prospective shows, right? All those demands were flat out rejected by the major studios, and now production in Hollywood has essentially come to a screeching halt, right? That's what you're doing. So basically what's happened, if you haven't been following this, what's happened so far is that with the shift to streaming and then kind of like the pandemic, there's been the gradual gigification of kind of writers' work, right? The people behind the scenes that actually are the ones who make the shows, right? We all know the actors, we see the final product, but those actors never get to act if it's not for the writers, right? We're writing on the shows. And so they used to do things, and again, it's already precarious work, right? You're not like, I'm an employed writer with this thing and I kind of have a 40-hour a week. No, it's like a boom and bust cycle. Right. You get hired for this particular show, for this, for this particular episode, maybe for this movie. And then you work, and then you basically are depending on, getting paid during that period of time, but then also getting some of the royalties from those shows. And that's part of what you live off in between these times. Well, that whole kind of royalty system, and they'll say, has been, gradually chipped away at as they've moved to streaming for a variety of different kind of complex readings. I would definitely urge folks to check out this great article in These Times that called "The WGA Strike is More Than an Issue of Pay. It's Part of the Battle for Diversity and Inclusion in Hollywood." It's a great piece which gets into some of the real issues that are going on in the writer's strike, and the stuff that doesn't kind of make the sexy headlines, so to speak, but is nonetheless kind of at the core of it. So do check it out. And I always watch things like this. We tend to flag stuff like this here, but you notice that what happens here, right? At the same time, right? That this is, look at the title of this, right? The battle of diversity and inclusion in Hollywood. We look at the same time that there's been like two things going on at the same time, right? So on the one hand, you've got a shift to streaming, right, which has been kind of eroding the pay of writers, right, slowly. And at the same time that's going on, right, and in part because of streaming, right, because there's more variety for, you've had an increase in the number of shows that are foregrounding like LGBTQ folks, kind of like diverse casts of Black writers and actors, and so you're seeing more diversity, so much more diversity, right, kind of on the screen. Right, and there's more opportunities for BIPOC directors and writers and all this stuff in here because that's happening. But at the same time that's happening, right, there's an erosion of that work, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, you have more inclusion, but you're going to do it for less, right? And you see this historically throughout, all throughout the United States, right? Where it's like the minute that you have a step forward in the expansion of democracy and kind of an equality and equity and inclusion, right, the economics of it works to counter that, right? And then that helps bolster, right, this kind of these divisions. But this is going to be kind of an important one. The next thing to watch, in addition to this Writers Guild strike, which is really going after that gigification in really significant ways, we're also going to see what's going to happen with the potential UPS strike this summer, and we're definitely going to be watching that really close. So, anyways, So listen, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the school board stuff, and then we're going to call it a day. I'm going to get myself some more allergy medicine, and we shall see. But anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, creator and founder of Raging Chicken. I want to remind you that you can help support this show by heading on over to patreon.com/rcpress. You can become a patron for those $5 a month. We'll be right back after this quick break. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I did it to myself again. I had to cough and I hit my mute button for the mic, and here I am muting myself. But I'm back. Thank you, Emily. I was just saying, hey, Emily. And Emily kind of messaged me earlier to say, she was going to try to head out to the rally that was going on at the school board meeting, the Penridge school board meeting on Wednesday. Concerned parents and community members kind of coming out. In particular, because the Penridge School Board is off the rails, right? And we saw it all again on Wednesday night. What became clear, a few things became clear if they weren't already, is that Megan Bannis Clemens, she's the vice president of the board. She's really running the show and pushing this agenda. That Jordan Blomgren is is a unthinking ideologue. Here, I want to talk about her in a second. Excuse me. But things got started off rocky, right? So I mean, part of the reason why there's a rally ahead of time, part of the reason that there were so many people that turned out to the board last night, Wednesday night, was because they were going to be voting on their kind of discriminatory bathroom policy. Right. This is the one that's been flagged by the ACLU. It's been flagged by kind of multiple, human rights organizations as this is being detrimental and discriminatory, and quite certainly illegal. But that you have to put all this stuff in quotes when you're talking about illegal, given the fact that we have these far right Supreme Court justices now, so you don't know where it's gonna end up. But as of now, this is discriminatory. There was also legislation, we talked about this last week, that was that cleared the Pennsylvania House this week that would protect LGBTQ people, would kind of include them as part of code of discrimination, because usually you got as protected classes, right? And because right now Pennsylvania, you could be fired for being gay, right? And that would be legal, right? Because that's not a protected class in the current code. New legislation passed that would make the protected class, right? Whether it's kind of, your sexuality or gender identity. So that's a huge step forward. That's still facing, challenges in the state Senate, but that's a huge step forward in terms of where people are going. So here we have in Penridge, these board members are kind of flying against the grain. And, even got, shout out goes to Ron Wirtz, and I'll put a shout out with qualifications here. Ron Wirtz is not, is actually, I give him a tremendous amount of credit for being at least willing to be hearing discussions from parents and to be above board in the process, right? And to, be transparent in the process, to kind of share, to have a real community input and discussion, as they go through in these policies, but Ron Wirtz is no progressive. I mean, he ran with Megan Bannis Clemens and Ricky Chaikin and Jordan Blomgren, right? Those the extremists. He ran with them, right? That kind of came up later in the end of the meeting there. So let's be clear. But that's my point. Like even Ron Wirtz and then Joan Cullen, right? The former chair. She was not there at the meeting on Wednesday. They're both been the quote unquote voices of reason on this board, right? Now I'm willing. Like Joan Cullen is a different story than Ron Wirtz. I think Ron Wirtz is. He's conservative, for the most part, but I do think, he's rational and frankly, he's rational, he's considerate, and he's thoughtful about, wanting to have people listen to and not to do things that are, illegal or kind of like ideologically, politically motivated, like basely, right? He's been outspoken against the Vermillion contract, all that kind of stuff. Like, so he was like the one voice of reason last night. Or on Wednesday, I keep on saying that. So anyways, that policy was going up. So that was part of the reason for the rally. And then during the board meeting, they were voting on the budget, right? And this got to be very interesting to me. So you had public comment period, right? That there's two public comment periods. There's one that's kind of speaking specifically to stuff on the agenda, and a second one that takes place later that's kind of fairly open. And there was this well, what would you say? So I'm just gonna say. So you basically had the Penridge School District, the school board shutting down public comment, right? So basically what happened is that it comes up, you have like the first speaker comes up to kind of give her kind of perspective, and she says how she's against Vermillion, right? And they start interrupting her, keep on interrupting her, and she says, "I am speaking on issues of that as the budget, because like Vermillion contract is in the budget." But the thing is, there's this weird thing that happened, right? Because the Penridge School Board agreed to this contract, this open-ended contract with this, Christian nationalist like consulting group associated with Hillsdale College, right? They agreed to that, which has to be paid for, right? But there's not specific lines in the budget where people are like, even Ron Wirtz have even said, like, it's unclear about where this is going to be paid for. And yet it's got to be paid for, right? So that's an issue of the budget. They would not let her speak, right? They refused to let her speak. And public comment. So I should not do this. I'm going to spend the whole time on it. So as soon as Vermillion was mentioned, right? As soon as Vermillion was mentioned there, they shut down the comment, and they went after and interrupted primarily women, interrupted them again and again and again, until the point where Megan Bannis Clemens basically stands up and says, "That's it. I'm not dealing with this anymore." After she had interrupted, she'd been nasty. Stands up and says, "I move to have a recess." It calls for a recess and then leaves the stage, along with the other extremist members of the board. Right, and so then it was like a half an hour recess before they reconvened, right, and come back, and then had to listen to the superintendent Bolton. I was astonished at how condescending he was to these primarily women, while asking to self-modulate their behavior. And we all agreed to the rules here. Now it was despicable. They're talking to them like they're 6-year-olds, right? Meanwhile, not a word to the person sitting right next to him, Megan Bannis Clemens, who was consistently interrupting and talking over people. Instead, disciplining members of the community. And then threatening to have them forcibly removed from the meeting. And one of those people that was being threatened to be forcibly removed just happens to be a school board candidate. What do you think of that? It's interesting, right? Isn't that just kind of interesting how the things like that happen? It's really strange. I mean, it just must be a coincidence, right? So, I mean, we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens with this school board election. I do want to say things. Hold on a second. Let me pull up this. I just seem to have misplaced this one. Here we go. So I do want to talk a little bit about this because so on the one hand, I should maybe finish my first thought. So that was kind of what happened. So disrupting a public comment, and then the meeting got prolonged because of the disruption of public comment, threatening it, actually calling the police to come. Right, and someone actually overheard the police, saying like, "Why are we here exactly?" Right, this is, and I believe it was Ross McClellan basically shouted that out later and called us, like, "Yeah, so much for your fiscal responsible, kind of forcing police officers to be called to spend their time here as opposed to doing what they're supposed to do. This is, trying to use police to do this." And even the police are like, "What am I? I'm in a school. What am I here for?" There's no like threats, right? It's just Megan Bannis Clemens pulling her Red Wizard kind of like stuff and wanting to just kind of use her unbridled power to run over everybody. So that primary thing. So then, they go on, the public comment that goes through. And, if you haven't noticed this already, on Raging Chicken's YouTube page, I've been clipping up kind of highlight reels, if you will, of the school board meeting at Penridge. I hope to be able to do some more of the other school boards too as well if I get on there. But it's, I'm limited to basically the time that I can put in personally, right? So, and obviously I'm directly invested in Penridge because I have kids in this district, like, and frankly, I think Penridge is not getting the kind of coverage that it deserves because, in terms of what is actually happening, what is being done. I forget who mentioned this at the at the school board meeting, but they believe, right, that Penridge is probably the first public school district in the country, right, to sign a contract with Vermilion Education, this kind of Christian nationalist organization and consulting group, to rewrite their curriculum, right? Remember, the folks in the community in Sarasota, Florida, right, were set to kind of approve a similar kind of contract, but they voted it down. Here, because of the complete domination of the far right on the board, they accepted it right away. So here's the thing. So Tuesday is the primaries. There's I sent this out before. There's a link to the show notes. The Bucks County Herald has a good breakdown. And so for the municipal primary elections in 2023, it's called Direction of Penridge Schools is on the ballot. And they break down the 11 candidates that are running there, right? So it's a primary election. So you have to be registered as a Republican or a Democrat in order to participate in Tuesday's election. And you will be given a ballot for, if you're a Republican, you will get a Republican ballot. If you're a Democrat, you'll be given a Democratic ballot, right? So that's here. But so there's 11 seats that are here. But here's the important thing. Because there's the ability for candidates to cross-file. In other words, to try to get on the ballot as a Democrat and a Republican, right? You don't know necessarily who's who on those ballots, especially when you're talking about municipal elections or school board elections. And that this is one of the weird things about kind of our democracy, right? It's like the closer we are to what's happening, closer we are to the people running for office, like people running for school board, right? The harder it is to get information about those candidates if you're not already plugged in. Right? That is always a challenge. I remember when I first moved to this area, and that's not true. That's not just here, right? I mean, when I moved to Allentown, it was the same thing. When anytime you move someplace, you don't know, like, you haven't been, growing up in here for generations, so you don't know all the kind of players and the names and what they mean and all this kind of stuff, right? So to try, and you see the signs out for school board stuff, and you see signs with names on them. What do you know about them? You just do your Google, try to figure them out. Well, at least now, because of what's been happening, because of the chaos and the crisis in our school boards, that there's been more reporting on this. And this is a really good article, like I said, in the Bucks County Herald. the who's who. And the key thing here is like, this is especially important for anybody who's registered as a Democrat who's going to be going out and voting on the primary, right? There are 1, 2, 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates that are going to be are going to be on the ballot, right? The 6 is an important number because there are 5 open seats. Okay, so this is a big election, right? There are 5 open seats, and you have one person on the Democratic ticket by the name of Bob Sellers. Bob Sellers, I don't know how the heck he got on the Democratic ticket, but this guy runs the Penridge Republicans. Like, this guy is notorious for being part of that right-wing machine, but somehow he got on the Democratic ballot. So what you need to know, if you're listening here and you're voting in the Penridge School District elections, right, your candidates, right, if you're a Democrat, your candidates are Leah Foster Rash, Chris Kaufman, Bradley Merkel Gump, Carolyn Ciarino, who we've had on the show before, and Ron Wirtz. Ron Wirtz, as I said, is he's an independent, but he's not a progressive, right? To be clear here. But he has been willing to speak out against the worst abuses that's on the board. So he's been endorsed by the Penridge Democrats. Do not vote for Bob Sellers on the Democratic ticket if you are a Democrat. You should vote for Leah Foster Rash, Chris Kaufman, Bradley Merkel Gump, Carolyn Ciarino, and Ron Wirtz. All right. Check the link in the show notes. Look for that that article from the Bucks County Herald so you can learn about those candidates. The other thing you need to know, right, on the Republican side, this shows you what the stakes are. On the Republican side of the ticket, right, there's these, and this is GOP only nomination, right? These are the people who are only running on a Republican ticket. Or, yeah, whatever. One is this guy, Joshua Hogan. Okay, now Joshua Hogan, right, he was one of the co-founders of Reopen Bucks in 2020. Right, one to advocate against pandemic-related school closures, lockdowns, and mask mandates. He's one of the guys who's fostered the extremism, right? So that guy could get elected, right? You could have him, the head of the Penridge Republican Club, Sellers, and just keep that extremism going. So this is absolutely critical. So now, again, I recognize this is a primary, but your primary, when you're going in to vote on the primary, if you are a Democrat and you're voting on the Democratic ticket, remember it's Leah Foster Rash, Chris Kaufman, Bradley Merkel Gump, Carolyn Ciarino, and Ron Wirtz. That's who you want to vote for, for my humble opinion. Do not vote for Bob Sellers on the Democratic ticket. If you are a Republican, please, in God's name, please do not vote for Joshua Hogan or Sellers. Do not put Sellers in there, although I know the way this party works. So anyways, that's that. That's my little piece of advice. Good to the community we have here. The other part of it, which I have not been able to break up this yet, I have too much grading I've got to do, so I've got to focus on that right now. But I will put up some clips for the second comment period that took place. So on if you look at the PA School Board Wars on our YouTube page, you look at some of the clips that are up there on that playlist. You can get stuff on the public comment that will give you a sense of what was going on, as well as some of the highlights from board misbehaving, right? So you get to see that. The second part, well, we got to hear some. There was some of this in the first part, but after they shut down, went into recess, they stopped wanting people to come up and talk about teachers too. So. But the second the second public comment period was really dominated by people kind of coming out to support teachers. The Penridge Education Association the teachers union is in negotiations. Their contract ends on June 30th. Because of Megan Bannis Clemens spilling the beans on during the meeting, we know that they're being offered minimal raises, well below inflation, which amounts to a pay cut. We know that Penridge teachers are already about 30% below the pay of teachers in surrounding districts. And we know that they've had to put up with just absolutely kind of an insane environment and still doing amazing jobs with our students, with our kids, right? So that was kind of devoted to really kind of wanting to support those teachers, and teachers getting up and talking about how important there was. I will strongly encourage you to go check out those videos. There was a woman who spoke, let me see if I can pull up her name, that was just amazing. Her name was, let's see. It was Priscilla Gray Stoll. There you go, Priscilla Gray Stoll. She spoke with passion in defense of students against the bathroom policy. Strongly check that out, but it's really amazing. And I guess this is why I wanted to come back to that and close out on that, because as bad as this was happening with the school district is, right? The story, right? I think we really have to start focusing. I really have to start focusing more on the resistance, right? Because the public comments and the rally that took place out in front of ahead of the board meeting was phenomenal. Like parents and community members have been doing an amazing job kind of organizing and pushing back against this stuff. And you hear the pushback, right? So nobody can say, right, that, that nobody cared. That's not the case at all. We see people fighting the good fight. That's important. That's happening in district by district by district, right? So we need to put more of a lens on that. I'll take responsibility in part for not doing that enough because I've been so preoccupied with the craziness. But we want to basically lift up those voices too as well, who are really doing the amazing work of organizing around these school board meetings. And then Sundra Bucks, similar kind of things this week, is we know that we had that Christian law firm, far-right Christian law firm that was brought in to kind of, do its dog and pony show report, basically showing how all of the ACLU's accusations against the district for discrimination against LGBTQ students was unfounded, and it's really the other side that's a problem, blah, 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 right? They did what they were paid to do, and then subsequent reporting has come out since then, showing that a whole number of the claims, a whole number of the analysis was just kind of wrong, which everybody in that room knew, but that was not the point of it, right? The point was, as Paul Martino basically came out and said, kind of on Twitter, like, that's what he calls good politics. That's what you call power politics, right? You don't care about the truth, right? You care about gaining political points, right, in a blood sport, right? So basically, somebody was criticizing for this. So basically what he did, right, basically helped get this, encourage them, to politicians to put out these fake reports. Right? He did this with his own report. What about there? You put out the report, you use it as a talking point, you drive the media coverage for a short period of time, right? Even though it's filled with lies and half-truths, right? And then people forget about it. They remember that one kind of point of the report, and then they forget about it. And because local news reporting, investigative news reporting has been so utterly gutted, right? They count on, people stop paying attention. Now, our local, we've had the, Bucks County Beacon has been doing a bang up job in kind of following this stuff. Chris Ullery at the Bucks County Courier-Times has been fantastic. Emily Rizzo has been doing fantastic work from WHYY covering this stuff. So there has been reporting now, finally, but these people will do whatever tactics they can. So just a reminder, you want to make sure you head on over to vote.pa.gov and make sure that you're registered. Make sure you know where your polling place is. And if you are a Democrat that are going to be voting in this year's primary, make sure you are not voting for Sellers. Sellers is a dyed-in-the-wool right-wing Republican, and he shouldn't. look, if he gets elected in the Republican thing, there's nothing you can do about that. But if you're a Democrat, you do not vote for that person. Please, for my kids' sake, for all our kids' sake, for our school district's sake. Yeah. And then, yeah. So I already mentioned, at the top of the show too, as well, about Ryan Padavani, one of my students who was killed this past week, and it was really, really devastating. He was an amazing kid. I mean, he had disabilities, right? He walked with crutches, right? He had Tourette's. He worked at the LGBTQ Center at Kutztown University. He was a fierce advocate for kind of disability rights, in particular access, and also access to mental health services. I remember one thing I was telling the story yesterday to some of my colleagues. When one of the things that one of those first times I really remember what happened with Ryan, or what Ryan was coming out as an advocate. It was up in this big. We had our own little town hall to try to see what are some of the issues that students are facing and staff are facing and faculty are facing, and how do we work together, right? It was kind of one of those meetings. And Ryan was there, and I remember he sat in the front row, and he talked about like the student frustration about being able to get access to the counseling center. And we as faculty members, particularly in the union, have been fighting for years, right, for to get adequate staffing in the counseling center, while the university administration is consistently looking ways at outsourcing it, right? They were kind of really talking about, we got this great little app that you can use now, right? Which is just basically outsourcing it. Not hiring enough staff, right? While we have an increasing number of students in crisis, right? That did not get better because of the pandemic. It got worse. And they're currently searching for a counseling, because they have no more kind of full-time faculty counselors there, right? And students are the ones who bear the brunt of this, right? So, all these kind of right-wing people talk about kind of they care about mental health and stuff like this, but you don't care about mental health unless you actually put the resources behind it. You just want people to freaking buck up and shut up, is I think what you really want. But Ryan told the stories about, like, look, he hears again and again for himself, is like, anytime you need access to counseling services, he's that students would hear, would complain all the time. The only way that you can get access to be seen in time is if you are concerned that you might take your own life. And so you had students who would basically were told, they told their stories publicly about how they had to kind of, they knew they were in crisis. They were not suicidal, but they would have to tell the counselor that just to be able to get seen, to get help. I mean, it's horrendous. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, here you got this kid who fought for, for everything, is out there advocating for other people, right? I mean, this is the kind of person he was. He was interesting. He was funny. He was so excited. He got this job. He's a technical writer, and he got this job, and he was thrilled to be graduating, landing a job. And I remember he was sitting in my office telling me about it. And then to find this out was just devastating. And again, we don't know the details behind what happened. We don't know what goes on. But if anybody does have information about what happened, this was up in Kingston, Pennsylvania. Ryan Padavani. If you see anything online, if you know anybody in the area that hears things, right, please contact the Kingston Police Department, Detective Robert Miller, at 570-288-3674. It will be in today's show notes. That's extension 420, 570-288-3674, extension 420. That's for Detective Robert Miller, right? Or you can email information at rmiller@kingstonpd.org. That's rmiller@kingstonpd.org. So, rest in power, Ryan. You're loved and you're going to be missed. Certainly. So, last thing on a slightly, I don't know, it's weird to go to an up note here. But yeah, you know what? I'm not going to go on the up note. We're just going to end with Ryan, and we're going to run into the seriousness of all this stuff, right? I mean, I think about why we organize, why parents bother to go to these meetings, why we kind of stand up for the least among us, is because they are the vulnerable ones, right? And we want to live in a society that is not this, right? We want to live in a society that's better for all. So let's do that. So I'm going to call it on that, folks. This is Kevin Mahoney, creator and founder of Raging Chicken. I appreciate you all tuning in today, and that sticking around, listen to me babble. And remember, we got a couple of great shows coming up on Monday. We've got a double show on Monday. We do indeed. At 1:30 p.m., we will have Christina Marusik on the board. On the show, we're going to be talking about her new book, A New War on Cancer. She's an investigative reporter for Environmental Health News. She's absolutely fantastic. She's been on the show. I looked it up. I think it was back right before the pandemic. I think is when she was on the show. She's fantastic. Her book is fantastic. So please join us at 1:30, and then right as the double bonus Super Monday show. And right on the ahead of the primaries is perfect timing. Catherine Joyce is going to be joining us. She's an investigative editor in these times. She's author of the books Quiverful and The Child Catchers. We're going to be talking about her latest article in Church and State on Moms for Liberty, called Mad Moms, a new Christian nationalist front group claims to champion parental involvement in public education. Her work is absolutely fantastic, and it's the kind of stuff that is critical for all of us. It's kind of like fuel for the struggle, if you know what I mean. But tune in, and that is Monday at 7 p.m. with Catherine Joyce, and Monday at 1:30 p.m. with Christina Marusik. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I wish you an awesome.
Which doesn't stop.
Oh, that's not what I wanted. What was that? I wish you an awesome weekend, and hope you get to enjoy some of it. And we'll be back with you on Monday. And then I should have all my grading done by then, so my sanity will slowly return. So here we go. See ya!
I guess I'll fly